Welcome to the Virtual International Partner Day of T-Systems 2020. I'm excited to welcome you all on your screens on this virtual event. Let's get started. I will be talking about Digital 2030 today. Exponential technologies, trends and innovation changing your business, your industry and your daily life. Our society is backward looking, and we are backward looking because it is just human nature. We all have experienced the past on our own, and we look around and we see evidence of the past all around us. All information we are creating on Google Docs, on Twitter, are suddenly becoming part of history. So the past is very knowledgeable, but yet we are spending the rest of our life in the future. It almost seems like we are walking backwards into the future. So my job is it to help you turn around? Is it to help to create an understanding of what the future might hold? We hear so much about the enormous promises of technology, and the promises are certainly true. But technology might also disrupt digital leadership and human society, our daily life, and the very meaning of human life in numerous ways, ranging from the creation of a global useless class to the rise of data colonies and the digital dictatorships or even digital wars. Digital 2030 depends on new digital leaders. It depends on you to make the right decision, to take responsibility and to use technology the right way. So today I brought 4 key topics: digital technology, digital society, digital money and monetary systems, and digital leadership. We've all experienced now the rise of digital, the emergence of emails, file systems, and the cloud. But we are at the turning point that everything which is currently digital will turn the offline world, the analog world, upside down. And we see a digitalization of every part of every industry globally. So everything that can be digitalized will be digitalized. But let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Monty Metzger. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I started my first company while I was still at school in Germany in 1998. I did HTML and PHP programming, and then I started out on a digital journey, which I still be in the middle of it. So early 2003, I started a company where a lot of people now call me being a futurist. With that company, we did future and market research. We looked into the key technology trends of the future, and we grew from one office in New York to several offices with New York, Munich, Beijing, and Tokyo. And we sourced all different kind of information for the Fortune 500 companies and some of the leading companies in Germany as well. When we sold the company in 2008, I had the opportunity to become a business angel and investor, and I used the same knowledge to source the trigger points and the disruptive technologies and invested with them and invested in these entrepreneurs and the companies with Digital Leaders Ventures. I'm now back in the entrepreneurs seat since 2018 officially with the company in Liechtenstein. I will tell you a little bit more in a second. I've been traveling a lot, and the reason I've been traveling so much, visiting over 50 countries since I started exploring the world, is to explore the next big thing. And where are the best places to do that? Technology hubs. Do you know where this place is? It looks like New York, like Skyline, or maybe an Asian city. It is Shenzhen. Shenzhen is this little fishing village which turned into a 20 million mega city, and it's known to be the Silicon Valley of hardware. This is the place where you can do prototyping probably 10 times faster than anywhere else. Where's this? Nice beach. There are skyscrapers. It's not anywhere in the middle, like Côte d'Azur or something like that. It is Tel Aviv, Israel. And Tel Aviv is known as the startup, or Israel is known as the startup nation. They have something called a chutzpah, which is like just let it get it started, go getting entrepreneurial spirit, and they challenge the status quo all the time. There are thousands of startups, R&D labs, VC funds, and startup accelerators. 22 are officially supported by the government, and there's a strong ecosystem of how to build a company. Israel itself, the market is not so important, it's very small, so that's why they always think on a global level from the beginning. And all the successful entrepreneurs, they give back to the early ones. So with the 30 billion in exits just in the last 2 years, or even more, most of the money is going back in venture capital funds to thrive the next generation and grow the next generation of startups. And then this, I don't have to explain, Silicon Valley, and that's the Golden Gate Bridge. What is very unique about Silicon Valley and San Francisco is 4 factors. There's a spirit of knowledge sharing. It's a culture and a mindset. So a lot of the VCs don't even accept to sign any non-disclosure agreement, NDAs. And if you go to any meetups, people will just tell you very openly about their idea and what they're doing. Also, it is a global magnet for talent. Some of the brightest minds all over the world go there to start a company over there. And core reason is not only the knowledge sharing, but also the technology infrastructure, which is given over there, and the risk capital. Maybe that's the most important part, because it's not only investment capital, but really risk capital. They are risking and betting on an entrepreneur who has this change the world mentality. So what is the future, the 4th industrial revolution? The term came up and had been established by the World Economic Forum in the book from Mr. Schwab, Klaus Schwab, who introduced it a few years ago. And it's basically kind of the evolution of the whole industrial waves, with the first wave in the 780s with steam water mechanics, the big steam machines powering the first mechanical engineering. And then the second wave, where we introduced electricity in 1970 with Mr. Edison, and then Tesla, of course, Nikola Tesla, been kind of driving that as well. So it was the beginning of mass production. The third revolution with computer electronics, internet, mobiles, we all experienced in the last 20, 30 years of our lifetime. So that's something which is part of every business now. But we're at the tipping point of this 4th industrial revolution, which is triggered of a digitalization of everything. Everything will be digitalized, which can be digitalized, and the emergence of new technology like artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Value, and so on. So this is really an exciting time to be in, because it's a tipping point of a lot of businesses. So who are pushing the boundaries of the 4th industrial revolution? It's certainly driven by fundamental research. Universities who probably have a time frame of 10, 20 years or even longer. Corporates and governments, R&D labs who take it a little bit more pragmatic, but still fund kind of long-term research. And then on the right side, which is covered by my nice video, is the startups and accelerators. So startups typically have the goal to be break even within 2 or 3 years already. So they get some funding, and then they aim to do an exit or an IPO, or just have like a cash cow of business within a couple of years. And they're under pressure, because if they don't succeed, they die and have to close down. Let's talk about digital technology, AI, drones, and robots first. I see disruption as an opportunity and not as a risk. I know that at a lot of companies it says, our business will be disrupted, but better be the disruptor than being disrupted. And you have the opportunity to do so. We see autonomous cars popping up. So within 2030, there will be probably 22% of all cars either driven fully autonomous or having a supporting autonomous systems like a pilot project level 2 or 3, 3 or 4 of autonomous driving in the car. And obviously, it is driven by electronic cars. This is being rolled out and pushed. So there are ways, probably in 2030, where you can just drive over a certain part of the highway, and with induction energy, your energy in the car will be, or the battery in the car will be loaded immediately just by driving over it. That's being tested already. And the beauty of any technology is it's been tested. There has been a lot of investment going in. So you're for sure, if you think back about who drives the fourth industrial revolution, they want to make a profit at some time. So this will be market ready pretty soon, and then rolled out probably over the next 10 years. So with autonomous driving, cities are turned into smart cities, and there's a whole new infrastructure of industrial Internet of Things and cars driving around. So this is like the interconnection of AI and smart driving, and then cloud computing obviously as well. Ultimately, driving is the new handwriting. You just do it when you want to do it, but you don't probably have to do it when you're commuting every day. So these smart cities need a new operating system. This is driven by this new infrastructure, the industrial Internet of Things, and a new sensor economy, where you not only create the sensors to collect data or the information just of pure fun, but rather to create an economic outcome, a business model behind. And then what is also interesting is we look in the air. We might see flying cars. There are few companies who had a tremendous amounts of funding. There are the few in Europe, but also in the US, funded by the guys from Google, Sergey Brin and Larry Page personally. So these flying cars and taxis might eventually be a very common use of transportation in 10 years. But what we currently already see is this test for drone deliveries. In the US by Amazon, here in Switzerland with Swiss Post, but also with a company called Zipline in Rwanda. And Zipline is particularly interesting because they're already operational. They have a license to do that in Africa, they're in Rwanda, and they're delivering medical supply and fresh blood for doctors within minutes. And they can go over very large rural areas just to reach these hospitals right in time with the right medication. So I see disruption as an opportunity, and this comes with exponential technology, a term which everybody has heard often, but it's hard for us to really grasp the impact of it, because as human beings we think linear, we think step by step, we take it easily in terms of how we think, but if we it is hard to really understand the impact of an exponential growth. I mean, if you take 1,000 steps from here to there, you will be probably 1,000 meters away. But if you take 1,000 steps, it doubles. In exponential thinking, it is doubling each time. So meaning that if you count exponentially, it is doubling every time, saying 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on. So if you take 1,000 exponential steps, you will end up 20 times to the moon and back. With the Moore's law and the computer performance, we're just at the peak, or just before the computers will overtake human performance. And this has a lot of implications on the future of work and future of business, obviously. So in 2030 in particular, you can buy a computer for $1,000, which is as smart as one human brain. And if the Moore's laws continue to grow, probably in the year here 2060, we will be at a point that you can buy a computer for $1,000, which is as smart as the whole human mankind on our planet. So the world itself becomes more complex, AI will become the defining technology of the 21st century, just as the microprocessor was in the 20th century. AI comes in several waves, and I can show you and give you a couple of examples. So the first wave was in the 90s, where we saw smart recommendation tools. So you type in a search at Amazon, you bought a book, and then it immediately shows you other books which might be interesting for you as well. You all know this. A second wave was with business AI. For example, Palantir did turn big data into smart data and supported especially national intelligence agencies to collect data on the internet. The next wave started in 2011 with a lot of face recommendation stores like Amazon Go, where you did not need to check out. You just walk in and the system recognizes you. You take the things you want and you walk out again. In Asia also, there had been apps like Meitu, which had been very, very famous, selfie apps where you take your mobile phone, you take a selfie of yourself or record a video, and it has all these nice filters with it, makes you younger or funnier with some doggy ears or something like that. So that's a free app, and how Meitu is doing business, they're selling and collecting the face data of the people. So in China, these data, they have hundreds of millions of faces in the database, and they're using that for face recognition in public places. So that's perception AI, digitalizing the physical world. And the next wave is the autonomous AI. So things like Waymo, Tesla, working on this smart infrastructure, which is moving cars, trucks, and other things, robots in a fully autonomous way. And we probably see different ways of AI. So it started out with kind of these simple AI tools, chatbots and these things, and it's really then ending in a very complex AI data field. What is really interesting is that we are, or which you have to make you aware, I would say, is we are already in the midst of an AI arms race. China might be leading, USA second, and most other countries are being left far, far behind. Unless we take action to distribute the benefit and the power of AI between all humans and countries, AI will likely create immense wealth in a few tech hubs, while other countries will either go bankrupt or become exploited data colonies. There are a few interesting applications, especially now in the run-up of the Tokyo Olympics in 2020. They have implemented a wave or like a large amount of social robots guiding you the way. But if you talk to the experts, these social robots will not only guide you the way, but also help with elderly care, will help in stores, in e-commerce, or even kind of in home appliances. So within the next 5 years, there will be millions of robots being sold, and new robots will come to the market. So this is all advances in AI, and will like help you all around in your business and in your personal life. Another thing is the AI used for video, and then recognizes things like if it's a cyclist, a pedestrian, or car, or just like a tree being parked. So these applications are used in deep learning neural networks to identify a person within a crowd, or to inspect large industrial equipment and generate real-time damage reports. So these systems with deep learning neural networks are just much more smarter than any human being. So these AI-powered softwares requires some time to scan, but then the amount of knowledge you can gain to make better decisions is tremendous. So China at the moment feels like they're a little bit ahead of the game. So they have 3 times more internet users than mobile internet users in the country than in the US. Mobile internet in general is like 50 times bigger in usage than in the US. Food delivery, shared bike services are tremendously higher in terms of the usability. So this digital society is very alive in China already. So what does these technology trends mean to digital society and our future of work? We've seen the evolution of mankind, where we started out over hundreds of years until we finally end up in front of the laptops and PCs. And the technology in the last 20 years had been freeing us a little bit from the desks. So we are used to iPads, for example, and laptops. Then we got smartphones, little pocket computers, probably much more powerful than any computer we had back then in the days on our desks. And now with augmented and virtual reality, it will be taken to a next level. And within the next 10 years until 2030, we actually see that happen. This will come with a variety of different glasses, which are cheap on consumer level, but will be not only used for fun, but also for business use. There's an artist called Keiichi Matsuda who created this hyper reality. So this is just a shout out. Happy to recommend this to you. It shows that how to project security information, advertising, information from your social networks, newsfeed, and everything like that in your daily living. And he probably takes it a little bit over the top, but what is for sure, this is a reality which we have to cope in the future. We're living in an on-demand society. So people are used to press a button and then actually get a service instantly. It's almost instant delivery on any Amazon delivery. So you get by the hour or overnight delivery. If you click the button at Uber or MyTaxi or something, you get a car immediately. And this usage or this mindset in consumer behavior is also adapting to business usage. So your business has to adapt to this on-demand society, and if you can't deliver an instant service, you're already falling behind. The consumers are more empowered than ever. They have access to a variety of information and data, which is like easily basically on the fingertips, with smart devices like vital monitors to track your heart rate, oxygen, temperature level, so which goes much beyond the kind of the Fitbit and fitness trackers. And this information will be probably also going into our eyes with these glucose sensing contact lenses, or even little displays which are in the contact lenses where you don't even have to wear the mask, the glasses anymore to get the information. So augmented reality, mixed reality will be something where we will be extending our digital brains in a way. And we are collecting more and more information. For example, with this digital plaster, a biostamp, which is does not need a battery. It's just triggered with your with the heat of your body, and it triggers a kind of collecting data and sending it to your mobile phone or another device. That's from the outside, but you can also do it from the inside. Digestible sensors will monitor your well-being from the inside. You can then send this information to your doctor or monitor it a little bit on the long term. You're ultimately creating a body area network, a base of technology permanently monitoring and logging your vital signs. You probably also need kind of a security firewall to not lose your data in day-to-day life. So new questions arise as the technology is growing. What does it mean for AI? Does it really lead to job displacement? For sure. I think us as digital leaders, we are that's a big challenge for us. So it's all our responsibility and to make the right decision, because things like which are repetitive, which are routine, which are optimizing or can be optimizing things will be all replaced with AI. It starts with telesales, dishwashers, customer support, and probably truck drivers, security guards, research analysts or financial analysts who have been going through large amount of Excel sheets. This is all will be replaced within the next 10 years. What is needed some more is creativity, strategy, and smart thinking, empathy as well. So complex and creative systems are needed. The displacement is already reality. We see banks who are operating with much less staff, like Citibank, the Nasdaqs of the world, stock exchanges are run without a trading floor anymore, and the stores are empty. Basically, there's a self-service, like in this Chinese future store, where you can just shop the elements you want, and then it will be either delivered to your home or you pick it up in a certain shelf there right away, but no human interaction needed. This is like all automated. The efficiency of digital businesses are truly something which we are already aware of. When Facebook acquired WhatsApp, how many employees did they have? 55 employees only, serving over 1 billion users, active users during the time. Vodafone at the same moment had not even 500 million, but 100,000 employees. That shows you that if you're talking about building a digital business, probably not need a lot of people to do that. So it's about lifelong learning and adapting to these new skills, complex, creative skills, which are probably a little bit more, makes us more human. Because AI has no creativity, no love. AI is a tool for us, but cannot create, or just helps us to create. AI has no self-awareness or love. So if you look at the metrics here, which I took from a talk from my friend Kai-Fu Lee, who's an investor in AI heavily in China and wrote a couple of books about it. He categorizes that in this metrics with, on the down left corner is AI. So these are the things which might be replaced, the truck driver, courier, and so on. On the right hand bottom side, it's the more complex things where creativity is needed. So that's where AI tools are necessary to make human creativity or make better decisions. Basically, you're using the AI tools to make better decisions for your business. On the other hand, left side on top, there are AI analysis tools which are needed with a human empathy and a human social aspect to it, like a wedding planner, for example. It is always the same process, but obviously there's a strong human touch to it to make it personal. And last but not least, on the right upper corner, the human side, the kind of social workers, creative, where it's about creativity, which will not be replaced within the next 10 years. So the changing employment types will be a key topic within the next 10 years, and we as digital leaders have to prepare for that. We have to train our staff, and it does not mean that we will have replacing everybody, but it's really an opportunity as the workforce evolves. So the job landscape, for example, in 2022 already, well, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs needed, or they're open and the people are needed. So these are data analysts, scientists, big data specialists, smart data specialists, and information technology services in general. So and of course general operational managers. So everybody who can oversee the development and also takes responsibility. That's a key part. Let's jump to an underlying layer which everybody is so used to have: money. And I'm talking about digital money and digitalizing the financial ecosystem, about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. After the Internet of Knowledge, which we're all used to with Google making any information available, it is now about the Internet of Value, where we actually transport real values like money on a digital code from A to B. And this had not been possible. Now with blockchain technology, there had been a milestone and it had been solved. So we are at a tipping point for banking and finance and the whole monetary system. Because in any digital business, even if you're building infrastructure in the cloud or something, the whole payment processes could be implemented immediately, triggered by so-called smart contracts, which are part of these little tokens. So any energy smart meters could immediately be paid by the consumers or by the clients itself. So there are kind of new business models emerging in every industry, but in particular it's interesting for the banking and finance industry as they need to be involved. And we already seen that with mobile payment. Mobile payment in Kenya had been transformed completely how people interact. As Bill Gates once said, banking is needed, but banks are not. And that's the case here. So you can basically text somebody at a market some money via SMS, and they give you like an ATM machine, the cash to use. So there's a mobile payment system with the M-Pesa, which is actually powered by Safaricom, a telco company over there, and it has 96% penetration rate, so everybody in Kenya is using it. But this is particularly triggered with SMS. It's not blockchain powered yet, but the ecosystem itself did need a central entity to do that. With blockchain, you don't need a central entity anymore. There are networks, monitoring networks, which are fully decentralized. And I'll explain you a little bit more. Triggered with the smartphone and the emergence of these cheap smartphones as well. So that's the Freedom Phone in India, which is cost $4 to buy. So smartphones are basically in every human pocket now, and they might even have rather a smartphone than a bank account. Mobile payment has also been very, very common in China. Whenever you have the chance to go there, you will see that everybody's paying with Alipay or WeChat Pay. These are the common forms to make the payments. And as you can see here from 2018, it was 67% penetration rate compared to credit cards or cash, and it's even accelerating at this point of time. So mobile payment is already there, but it is still powered by banking systems in the back end. So an Alipay or WeChat Pay could not would not be possible with banking partners in place. And this is where blockchain comes in, because blockchain is an electronic distributed ledger, like a list of entries, let's say a database, much like a stock ledger that is maintained by various participants in a network of computers. So it means that, imagine you have a database, but it's not stored on your one computer, but on hundreds of thousands of computers. And there's a certain consensus to it. So if one computer is manipulated, all the others will find out and immediately trigger that there is something wrong. So the system itself is almost unhackable. Goldman Sachs calls it the new technology of trust. And the big financial institutions like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have been investing heavily. JP Morgan even came out with the JP Morgan coin, which is a coin linked to the US dollar. So one token is $1, which means that they created an internal, or they testing it at the moment as an internal settlement tool to do transaction on a global level within their bank. And let's see when they will be coming to market. Blockchain has, and especially Bitcoin, have been solving this double spend problem. You know, if you're sending an MP3 file, a song, or a photo from yourself to your family, you want to keep a copy and you want them to have a copy. But if you're talking about money, it's not even possible, or should not be possible, that you keep the 50 euros and the other person you're sending it to have this 50 euros as well. So this is the double spend problem. And with the blockchain technology, that had been solved. So basically you can make sure that if you're sending this 50 euros or a token, basically one Bitcoin, to the other person, you don't have it anymore and he has it, and that's possible immediately. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto launched, or published basically 2008 as a peer-to-peer, described as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, Bitcoin. So Satoshi Nakamoto is a synonym, so we actually don't know who's really behind, but he triggered the whole movement which happened in the last 12 years. I see it more as an establishment of a very good proof of concept, which is now has a market value of over $200 billion and trading volumes daily on like several $billion a day, who are trading these utility tokens, mostly unregulated tokens on the blockchain. And then there are other use cases also emerging. Blockchain used for health tech, storing information, verifying information, enabling traceability in any supply chain. So blockchain can be used in a lot of other fields as well. But for me, I think most interesting is talking about the financial systems. So let me explain what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is the first fully decentralized open currency in a combination with a payment protocol and built-in trust. So it is decentralized. So that's the beauty of blockchain. So nobody can interfere. It is running off hundreds of thousands of mining machines who are enabling and certifying the transactions. It is open, so it is open to the public. You can see all the transactions. It's not anonymous in a way. So, so if you know the kind of bank account, the Bitcoin address of somebody, you can see what is going in and out of this address in public. So it is not fully autonomous, but there's privacy installed. So as long as you don't know who owns this address, you don't know who's behind, but you can see what's going on. So that's the openness. It's a protocol network, so the trust is basically built inside. You don't need to trust the other counterparty. The trust is built within the system. So what is the value of Bitcoin? A lot of people think about it as like digital gold 2.0. And it might be true. It's a commodity which is highly limited. 21 million Bitcoins will be mined in total. There won't be more. At the moment, trading around 8,000 or going up to 10,000, let's see. There's a certain trading interest around it. So over 60% of the whole trading volume on cryptocurrencies is focused around Bitcoin at the moment. And for private family offices, it is really an alternative to gold, so they diversify their risk portfolio for any global crisis. They have real estate, gold, and holding some Bitcoin as well. But besides Bitcoin itself, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies. On CoinMarketCap, there are like more than 2,000 listed. I think even 4,000 now. Last time I saw. So there are plenty of these different cryptocurrencies. Another name for these cryptocurrencies are tokens, and it's particularly interesting or important if you look at things like Ethereum, because Ethereum enables not only to have this like a value, like a payment token methodology, but it has a smart contract inside, which means you can program what the token does in a certain moment, or if there's certain characteristic matched. You can program a little software around it, and then, for example, if there's this smart meter in the wall which triggers or measures your energy consumption, the payment method could be implemented right away with smart contracts and the cryptocurrencies. So it's the first time in history in the world that anyone can send and receive any amount of money to anyone else instantly, and nobody can interrupt it. And you have to think about that. It is complex to send money from Germany, from Berlin to Uganda, or from Germany to Singapore. There are remittance companies who takes a couple of days to do that. And especially for businesses, it is a huge cost factor. It takes time, it's uncertainty, you don't know if the money arrives, things like that. This will be a matter of the past. Also, you don't need a bank to use banking services. With a smartphone, you can open up an app, which is a wallet, and, for example, you can put some of the new Libra coins from the Libra Foundation inside. As you might heard about that, That's an initiative, Libra Foundation, triggered by or initiated by Facebook, but now with a couple of other companies. And Facebook is building this digital wallet, which is enabling you to send and receive Libra cryptocurrency all the time, send it to your friends all over the world. So blockchain is to the money what email was to the letter. Blockchain technology is to the money what email was to the letter. It really feels like the internet in its early days. Most of the big companies will emerge within the next 10 years. So we'll see until 2030 probably some of the new Googles and Facebooks coming out of this industry. And what's particularly interesting for me is the tokenization of assets. You can take a token and fill it with any asset or any right. It could be representing part of a real estate or car ownership of a financial asset, or even of a right, a copyright, a song, music right, or anything like that. And so there's a way that you tokenize real life assets, and then you have the simplicity of sending the token and with the ownership, which is implied and legally linked to this token to another person. So if you own a car and you own, and this is represented in 10 tokens or 100 tokens, you own these 100 tokens, and you can just send over with this digital wallet the tokens to another person, and then if he holds the 100 tokens, he's the owner of the car. And with the Liechtenstein new blockchain act and the laws over there, this is legally binding, and you can link any asset to a token. The another aspect which I already mentioned is central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. China is leading the way at the moment, or it seems like it. At least put over 2,000 people on this project at the moment to build a digital RMB. But also other central banks are working heavily on it. We had been part of a working group at the World Economic Forum last year with 45 central banks, and I'd been joining these discussions with the central bankers. And what was exciting is they all have a deep understanding of blockchain. They're all working on prototypes, research documents, or any activities around it, and really evaluating what they do. It's not a matter if they do it, but rather when and which countries will be first. And it might be probably the smaller ones who will be starting earlier with these central bank digital currencies. But if they don't do it, it will be the private companies who drive it, like the Libra Foundation. So with my new company, LCX, we are in the middle of this new growth wave of blockchain industry and digital assets. It's called the Liechtenstein Crypto Assets Exchange, and we are building a new infrastructure for this future of digital assets. But let's jump to digital leadership and how to make data-driven decisions and how to be a smarter digital leader. 90% of all data in the world was created in the past 5 years. The data volume is growing at 40% each year, if not more. And it will increase 100,000 times by the year 2030. So the growth rate is really exponential. And that's something which is hard to imagine. But I would say data is the new kryptonite. So of course, you've heard the term, data is the new oil. So if you have access to data, you're collecting it in the cloud or wherever in your servers, you have big data, you can do smart analysis, and you can do a good business with it. But in the case of Facebook, for example, data can be the new kryptonite, which can be very dangerous if you have too much information, or it can even kill you or the organization. So be careful to set up the right rules. So digital leadership in a world of algorithms and data really means that we are exposed to a new reality. We're drowning in data, but starving in wisdom. You have to be the conductor of big data. You have to drive the development to get the right information out, to not drown in this data. So let me give you a digital leader's formula, something to help you survive in day-to-day business. At the middle, at the core, these are all the technology trends which are coming. You know, AI, robotics, cloud computing, quantum computing, all varieties of digital innovation. The good thing about digital technology is, or the easy thing is, it is easy to predict. I can exactly tell you that there had been this amount of funding going to a certain company or a certain industry field with several companies. All of them are driven to launch a product within 2 or 3 years. And then they are trying to scale it up. So they either succeed or fail. But if you talk to the R&D labs, for example, they can also tell you, now we're talking about 5G mobile networks, but they're already working on the next generation, 6G or whatever they name it then, which will be also rolled out probably over a time of, or introduced over the time of the next 10 years. So these are things which are easy to predict. These are hard factors. What is harder and which makes your life harder is the things around it. The digital customer, society. Will your digital consumer accept this service? For example, in Japan, QR codes had been very common. In all magazines, there had been the link. You could scan the QR codes and then open up the mobile website immediately. But it's never reached our place because of commodity, of I don't know, other elements. So it is really something where you have to question, will this technology be accepted? Do you know that the robots are coming, but do you want to have an AI-powered robot in your home? Digital business models. You know what Uber, Facebook, and Alibaba have in common? They're all platform businesses. Alibaba is probably the biggest retailer who does not have any inventory. Uber is the largest transportation company in the world, does not have any cars. And Facebook, one of the largest media companies who do not produce any media on their own. So it's a platform business. And it is just one example of digital business models and how they evolve. You might not be ready yet to serve your future digital customers. Your business models might need to change. You might earn more money with future business models or the next generation of your business model than with your current one. This will change. And last but not least, digital leadership. You have to make smart and brave decision to really go all in sometimes. Let me give you one example. Everybody knows Kodak and the story on how they failed, but the details are frightening. Kodak was the market leader with these analog films. So you took photos, you filmed, you sent it to a lab, and then they gave you the printed photos back. But what Kodak invented, they had a great company culture, some of the smartest minds, so a lot of resources, money. They had good people, a lot of smart people involved, and last but not least, they had also the right patents and innovations. They invented the digital camera. They have the patent on it, and it was down in their R&D labs somewhere. And then the leadership made a very smart decision and said, okay, there's digitalization happening. Let's build a big factory. Over 100 million euros had been invested, where you send your analog film to our factory, we digitalize it for you, and you get a CD-ROM or DVD back. They had huge facilities to press and store the data on these CD-ROMs and DVDs. But you know what happened? This was probably the case for 1 or 2 years, and then everybody switched to digital cameras immediately, and now digital cameras are even in your smartphone. You don't have an external digital camera as a consumer anymore. So Kodak had it all: the right people, the right resources, and the patents. But they made the wrong leadership decision. to not realize what's going on. I'm often asked, what are the right, let's say, the right mindset for a digital leader? And there are a few things. First of all, you have to not be arrogant and ignore these things. The technology trends are happening. You can't ignore it. You have to open up your eyes and be realistic to it. The second thing is test it and trial it. I mean, I imagine, or I still remember when Twitter was introduced, a lot of people were saying, oh, that's not necessary, they will never survive, it is shitty service. But only when you used it, you really understand what it meant and what the benefits. And I think now everybody can understand that. So, and the third aspect is making brave leadership decision. If you did not ignore the trend, you know what's coming. And then the second is that you tested it, be brave and take the decision. And what is even more important is that you don't miss any of these opportunities. So you have to be good informed. And then last but not least, it's about the focus. To focus on the right things which is relevant for your business. Because we are kind of having this wave of information which is hitting us every day in terms of media attention and trends and technologies. And you have to focus on the right things for your business. So I think these are kind of the key mentalities every digital leaders should have. So don't ignore, test it, then be informed all the time. Be curious, and then focus on the right topics. So how to adapt to this Silicon Valley mindset? You know, I did a couple of tours through the Tesla factory in Fremont, and what is always fascinating to see is that the engineers are sitting right next to their machines they're working on, sort of plot machines or something like that. So it's not separate, that there's a fancy office building and then the machines. They have just like a glass protection that it's not too loud, but they're sitting right there, so they can iterate and change things within the process immediately. As a digital leader, you have to create a new lean thinking mindset where you take an idea, you build a product, like an MVP, for example, a minimal viable product, something which works, but it's not perfect yet. You analyze it, you measure it, and you take the data, and then you learn from it to make your idea even better. So, and the faster the circle goes, the better you are. Another mindset in Silicon Valley is moonshot thinking and exponential thinking. So you take a huge problem, you take one of these breakthrough technologies. For example, you look at healthcare, you look at blockchain technology and what it could do with the healthcare data, but then you go into radical solutions, say, okay, let's have a digital patient file triggered or maintained by blockchain or whatever. So you have to take a radical solution, and with that, it is not about improving your things a little bit. Like if you take a product and say, how can we make it a little bit faster and have like a 10% improvement? The moonshot thinking is about challenging your status quo. So imagine you would open up a workshop and say, okay, it's not about 10% improvement. How can we make 10x, 10 times more convenience, 10 times more battery power, 10 times more speed in your networks, 10 times more storage in your cloud computing? That's really triggering something in the new thinking and then probably triggering exponential growth for your business as well. So what is digital leadership? It's about starting with this term digital transformation, but it's more about finding a digital identity, finding digital mastery, and ultimately creating digital excellence in the whole company. It's not like there's this digital department who manage it. Your whole company is digital. It is about creating efficiency and digital processes. A lot of people think that digital transformation starts with here one day and then we end the project here on another day and there's a very strict line. But actually it is more like this lean thinking. So it's a trial and error. You learn something, you improve the product, you fail, you learn from your failures, you go up again. And then over time you should end up with digital leadership and digital excellence. So the constant, so let me explain what I mean with digital transformation and digital leaders formula. For me, it's really three things. It's a constant realignment of technology, business models, and company culture to more effectively do business in digital age. Coming back to the digital leaders formula, technology at the heart, easy to predict, the soft factors, your consumers, your leaders, yourself, and the business models. These are the soft factors which are harder to predict. So if we look at 2030, it will be certainly exciting. So today I talked about digital technology, AI, drones, and robots. I talked about digital society, employment, and the future of work. I spoke about digital money, cryptocurrency, and blockchain technology, in particular central bank digital currencies, tokenization, cryptocurrencies, and how this could be empowering a programmatic monetary system where you can put little programs into a decentralized system. Very exciting. And then also digital leadership, data-driven decisions, how you can become a better leader in this digital future. So therefore, I would say now it's the best time. Now it's one of those moments where you can change the future. So let's get started because the future is now. Thank you very much.